what we want to talk about in this episode is things we wish we knew when we first got married to cultivate healthy relationships with our family, with our kids, with each other, with work or business, and with friends.
Yeah, how to balance all of that.
Yeah, how to balance all of that. And in the past 12 years that we've been married, I think we've learned a lot of different things. We've made a lot of mistakes.
A lot of mistakes.
Yeah, and you know it's funny, like I'm just remembering there were a few specific like mistakes that those relationships never recovered. You know, like certain decisions where we said we were going to do something and then we didn't do it because it was at the sake of, because you know, at the sake of being somewhere else.
Yeah.
And to this day, some of those relationships are scarred.
A little bit, yeah.
And so I think that we have learned a lot of different things.
Yeah.
Okay, so number one on the
first. Oh,
yeah.
yeah. No. I think we were going to do the same thing, but I think the first thing is defining that. You know, defining what you want to do and what you want to say yes to. Because I think that, like I said, because, you know, Paula just shared that there were certain things that we said yes to and then we didn't do it.
Yeah.
You know, it's the integrity part. You know, I think
true.
because we were all over the place at that time that, you know, we didn't know what was priority, and we also had a lot of fear of man, I think, too, growing up a little bit. You know, we were younger.
I think we were always trying to please everybody.
Well, that's why fear of man, like you're trying to please everybody, so you don't know.
Like people pleasers. We were just people pleasers all day. Like I know I was a big people pleaser.
Of course.
It was hard for me to say no to things.
Exactly.
Because I didn't want people to like and what the Spanish is menospreciarme, but
despise people.
Yeah, like I wanted to be on everybody's good side.
Yeah.
And so I would say yes to everything.
And I think that's like the number one thing you have to understand about yourself. Like if you are a people pleaser, you first have to understand, you know what? I struggle with people pleasing. Like I actually, you know, I'm not good at saying no. And I think for a long time, you and I were really bad at that.
Yeah.
We were bad at saying no.
We were scared of that because we were scared of losing relationships.
Exactly, or losing favor, right?
Losing favor, yeah.
And I think that is something that could be applied everywhere. It could be applied at work. It could be applied with business, everywhere, you know?
That's true.
Even with our own kids, you know, you don't want to let them down, so you say yes to them.
That's a good one, because let's say you're trying to, you know, get promoted at a job, or you're trying to land a deal with a client, whatever it is. And your client or your boss tells you, oh, but can you do this? Can you do that? And you had already promised your wife that you were going to do something with her, or your kids, you know, but, you know, and this becomes habitual. That's where, you know, you begin to damage relationships.
Short. Yeah, exactly.
And damage relationships.
Exactly.
So the strategy is, first strategy that we've... practical stuff, is calendar everything.
Yeah.
So our calendar is like... It's
literally like,
it's pretty specific. Like we know what we're gonna do. Okay, is this where we wanted to share our strategy with the kids?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, that's a good one.
Well,
so
I mean, we have calendar for everything.
Yeah, we have calendars for everything.
Yeah.
So as business owners, like, you know, we kind of bring a lot of the business strategies into our family. So that I was cracking up at that. Like, you know, even you know, time with our kids is calendared, but one of the strategies that we have, and I talked about it in the episode with the Mills, with the Mills, is that, and this honestly came through us seeking the Lord, you know, and just praying
for 2024,
and saying, all right, we want to spend more time with our children.
Yeah.
We want to make sure that they feel valued, appreciated, and heard by us.
Yeah.
And so if we want to do that, we got to spend time with them.
Yeah.
And so being intentional with each one of them, with 4 of them. So we said, okay, every Wednesday we're going to alternate and we're going to take a different kid out individually. So yesterday, we're filming this on a Thursday. Yeah. Yesterday was Wednesday.
Yeah.
And I took Judah out. And then the week after, you're going to take...
I'm taking Levi out. Wednesday.
And then the Wednesday after that, Hannah, I'm taking Hannah out.
And the reason why we chose Wednesdays, one is because that's actually a day that they don't have homework.
Oh, yeah.
So we specifically, I know you forgot that.
Oh, that's a great idea.
So you're right. We chose Wednesdays because of that, because they don't have homework. And that's a free night that they don't have to worry about, you know, oh my gosh, we have to, you know. So that's the reason why we chose that, because we don't have to worry about, sitting with them and doing their homework. So
that's good.
I think calendar represents being intentional. Just being super intentional. If you don't put it on a calendar, I feel, at least for us, we're just not serious about it. Even doing this podcast,
oh my God,
we have to put it on the calendar. If we don't put it on the calendar, then we're not serious.
That's true.
It just represents like, it's an idea.
Yeah.
But now we've learned
that nothing will get done.
Exactly. Now we've learned, okay, if it's not on the calendar,
it's not gonna happen.
It's not gonna happen. So you really have to know what works for you. And you're gonna learn that along the way. You're gonna learn that, with making mistakes, but not only making mistakes. I would also say people calling you out. It's so important to surround yourself with people that are going to call you out. We have a few of those friends that are
God bless you guys.
They're not ashamed of calling you out.
No, but you need those type of friends. And I would say, if you don't have those type of friends, do you really have friends?
Do you have friends?
Yeah. Do you really have friends?
Or if they don't call you out, then are you the problem, right? So that's like a whole different episode that we can
that's a
talk
different
about.
episode. So,
but what I'm trying to say is, the reason why we've gotten so good at calendar is because, we knew, like, okay, things don't get done, so you have to be intentional. And then 2, like, we did get called out a lot because we would let things fall out. It's like, oh man, I forgot, right? Like, oh, you're right, I did have to get there at 6, but we got there at 7 or whatever.
And it's, exactly. And it's like, well, how does this fit into, like, things I wish I knew when I first got married to cultivate healthy relationships? Well, if you don't calendar things, you say things are important to you.
Right.
But when it actually comes down to,
you don't do it.
All right, this is your commitment. You said you were going to do this and you don't do it. This is why relationships get broken.
Exactly.
And it's with your kids, like
everyone.
It's with your wife, it's and as a man,
employees,
with your employees, then they don't take you seriously. They're like, oh, that we said we were going to do that. We never did it. And this is what I was going to say with that, love, is that, what happens is that people begin to lose respect for you.
Yeah. Well, integrity. I mean, I think that's something that we heard on our last Sunday at service. It's true that those are 2 words for this year, for 2024. It's consistency and integrity. And I know it's something that we were talking to our kids a couple weeks ago about integrity. Like, what is integrity? And I think integrity is, doing something that you said, even though it hurts, even though it's inconvenient, even though, the Bible says in Psalms 24, what does it say? It says, don't make a vow rushed, don't be impulsive. Exactly. Don't be quick to make a vow, because then if you break it, like, you get yourself into some serious stuff. And like you said earlier, you damage relationships, so.
Yeah, it actually says in Ecclesiastes, it says, before offering something to the Lord, and this is like God speaking.
God,
it's King Solomon that wrote Ecclesiastes, and it's saying, before offering something to the Lord and giving him something, make sure that you are going to fulfill that vow, because it's better to say, you know what, this isn't really important to me right now, or later on when I do have time, I am going to do this. But I'll tell you what, if you're going to get married, I mean, dude, that's got to take priority, man. Like, I don't care how many business, like, I could care less about this, whatever we're doing here, this podcast, the businesses, whatever else I have going on in my life. Even like serving at church or doing all that stuff, I care less about that if this isn't right.
Right.
You see, so I'm gonna make sure that this, like, the foundation stuff, like my children, like, you kidding me? Like, podcast over my children, care less about that. So it goes back to the scheduling. If it's on the calendar, the beautiful thing is that you're able to see where you spend your time.
Yeah.
And you could even go back on your calendar and you could be like, okay, what percentage of my time goes to the things that I committed to? What am I truly committing to?
Yeah, and it's so awesome because our older son, Judah, he's going to be 10 in a couple weeks. He's a planner. So he loves his calendar stuff. Like, you tell him, like, we're going to do this and this and that, and that he's like he loves that. That's like his love language, right? He's not very spontaneous, like Pablo. Pablo's very spontaneous.
I'm a risk taker.
Yeah, so he likes, but I think that was something also that you had to learn. You know that You couldn't just be like impulsive and just whenever everybody had to adjust to your timeline,
my ideas,
your idea. I mean, we even had a whole thing with, remember, Christmas ago, Christmases ago, I
got in trouble. I mean, I have great ideas, and like, at the end, people like them, but people like to prepare for them, or they would be better executed if we would plan.
Another one that we have here is ask for help.
Yeah, that's a good one. I'll talk a little bit about that one. So the importance of having help, and I think asking for help. Now, if you're in a position where you're like, well, I don't have any family. If I couldn't imagine like living in a state where I didn't know anybody, or we didn't have family members. Yeah. And then we had kids. Like, I feel so much for, people that are in that position, because it's really, really tough. Because one thing that I know that we do really well is we ask for help, and we did have your mom move in with us to help us out. But in addition to your mom moving in with us,
well, it wasn't really to help us out. It's just,
it was kind of, to be there.
It kind of happened.
Yeah, but I mean, if your mom's there, like she really helps out of the kindness of her heart. Yeah. But beyond that, I think it's also, we've also hired a lot of help. Mm-hmm. We've had, like nannies, we've had people to come help, because look, this is what it is. Like, if I'm, the way I see it and where my mind shifted with that, because we always go to the cost, right? Because it is, it is costly to make this investment. I think especially in the, in the summertime where the kids are out of school. But the way I think about it is, okay, if this is what I am going to be paying, well, if I'm able to free up my time and to free up, your time, well, we could even, through the businesses that we do, multiply that, where it's, and I know it's kind of tough for people that have, 9-to-5 jobs, because in a lot of cases, like, well, I'm not going to be, doing, going to work just so that the kids can be raised by a nanny.
Exactly. And that's why I'm saying, like, what is important to you, right? Like, what is, like, that's what in the beginning we were talking about, like, what are you going to say yes to? Like, what are your things that you're trying to balance in life?
For me, and for us, in these past 7, 8, 10 years, what's been important to us has been being involved in our church community, building the businesses that we've been able to build. And in order for us to be able to do that, we had to hire help.
We had to,
We had to hire help. And it made sense for us financially, although it was a bit of a stretch, and, it's not super cheap. But nonetheless, if we didn't have that help, we wouldn't have been able to do what we did. Yeah. So I think for us, in our case, we definitely had to hire help.
Yeah, and I think everyone has to assess, obviously, where they're at. You know, I know for us, like you said, it was a stretch, and it was a leap of faith, because, again, you have to know where God is calling you, right? You have to know what God is saying to do in that specific season or in that specific year. And for us, we always knew that God was calling us to expand in certain things, So because we believe that, we said, well, we're going to have help. I think that everyone's case is different, everyone. But that is why I go back to, what are you saying yes to? If you're saying yes to certain things in 2024, is because God is going to give you the grace. Yeah. He's going to give you the wisdom. Strategy. He's going to provide for you. Because I've had moms come up to me and say, "Oh, Gabby, you can do all of that because you have help." And I'm like, I don't know if they're saying it like in a resented way or in a way where, they're like, I wish I had that. But I always tell them, well, this is what God has called me to do. And because he's called me to do this, he's going to provide it.
Now, I'll say that with with this, it's not like we're not. And one thing that we don't do, because look, what's the whole purpose of this episode? It's things I wish I knew when I got married, to cultivate healthy relationships. We're not saying hire help so that you could forget about your kids, so that you could focus on work.
Oh, no.
Like that at all is what we're saying. No. Even when we do, like, we're still very involved. Like, okay, what did they eat today? What did they do today? Okay, we even have a schedule an itinerary that we're like, whoever the babysitter is, we want you to follow this itinerary. This is what they're going to eat. These are the kind of games we want them to play. This is playtime. We're not saying movies. Turn on the TV. Exactly. Yeah. So I think even that is like
you have to be very involved,
intentional, and involved. So it's not with like, oh, I just want to forget about my kids and go work.
No, not at all. No, not at all. It's more help because I stay home. Like for instance, this week I stayed home most of the week, especially because the kids were sick. So. We're blessed that because we're in the, we have our business that we're able to have that type of flexibility. So no, like our kids are like number one, 100%. Our marriage is also number one. So it's not that we're hiring help to neglect our children. No, it's the opposite. We're hiring help so they're not neglected, you know, so we're able to do what we have to do, but then we come home to them, and we have a schedule as well,
well, I think that's the next thing, because one thing that we do, and we've been doing it for like 5 years, something like that, is we have family services. And what that is we call it family service, but you could call it like a family meeting, like a weekly family meeting. You can call it a weekly devotional time with your kids. And so what we do is we get together and we talk about different topics. This is a great time for me to discuss something that's been going on amongst them and I want to address, such as, you guys have been fighting a lot, or you guys have been having a lot of arguments. It's also a time when we come together and we worship. So, I play guitar, you sing. So we're like, hey, let's do that with our kids. We don't just do that at church. So I get my guitar, and we, in this time, in this family service time, we pretty much have a church service, but at home, right? And because our kids, so when we first started doing this, it was the most like frustrating and annoying thing ever. It was not fun at all, and even now it still has an element of sometimes it's like,
they're not all there.
They're not all there. Exactly. So, but these have definitely been indispensable to get us, our family unit, to where it's at right now.
Yeah. And just cultivating the presence of God, I think as well. Yeah. That is big one. I think that's like one of the main ones. I think that we've had, just praying all the time, saying, God, you be the center. You be the center of this house. Your presence has to be here. Like, and then that's where we're also very intentional about what are the things that are repelling the presence of God.
That's good.
Are there movies? Are there, just anything,
actions, reactions, decisions.
Anything, that people or, things, that we don't want certain atmospheres in our home, so we're very specific, we're very intentional, and, everything is done with purpose, and on purpose. Like, our family meetings we usually have on Monday nights. So we're very diligent in like not using our Monday nights, for certain things.
Well, it goes back to calendaring.
Exactly. And if we do have to do something on Monday night, we'll do it on a Tuesday, or we'll move it to a Thursday, whatever, we'll move and adjust certain things. But we try to never skip family services because it's where we minister to them.
Well, and what I was going to say before we move on to the next point is that we just had a conversation with Joshua Mills. He and his wife Janet, it's beautiful. Definitely, if you haven't watched that episode, you definitely have to watch it. But one thing that I love about them, because their whole thing is living in the glory, and what that is in a nutshell, in like the simplest way that I could describe it, is living with the presence of God in mind. Everywhere in everything that you do. And so what I think family service does is that it keeps God at the center, and it's like, well, like everybody, like, so they see us actively saying, well, we might do things differently, than what you see other people do because of God, because of what the Word of God says. We might make certain decisions. We might have certain limits or boundaries,
talk to them.
This is where we talk to them about values.
So family services are very special because it's where they also encounter God. We teach our children, like, hey, if you want to be successful in life, it's not about money. It's not just about like, doing good in school. Like, being successful in life means loving God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your might. So, in the family services, it's not, just a little, thing for them to be like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, check. Like,
Yeah.
no, like we actually go hard after God in
Yeah.
our family service. And
Yeah.
of course, sometimes there's nights where like none of them are
Paying attention.
wanting to be in the spirit or seeking the Lord, but it's an opportunity.
We keep doing it. Yep. So, all right, another one, real quick, is we have sit down dinners all the time. I think that's important, and I don't really think we need to elaborate so much on that because I think there's so much content, and this is just like a known fact. A family
but
that
you
has.
Gotta be intentional.
Yeah, there was this thing that I read, this like article. It's widely known families that have dinner together are typically much more united
and healthier
and healthier families. Yeah, exactly, because you get to speak, you get to have conversations, and so
and also even physical health, because when you are for instance, I know one of my goals for 2024 is to cook more.
Yeah.
And when I cook, Paulo doesn't like cooking.
Get out of here. This girl.
He doesn't like cooking.
Yes, I do.
Not really, because I like to cook like sometimes he thinks it's bland, but I think it's healthy. So,
Why would you put yourself on blast like that?
Because you do. Girl. So,
This girl. Anyways, whatever.
But, he likes my mom's cooking. She does Hispanic cooking and like, the soups and all of that.
I love your cooking too, baby.
I get bored of that.
Yesterday, babe, you made a delicious meal. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. I do like your meal. I like it when I told you. I like it when you cook, but when you try. Like, now it's like, oh, okay, we got to feed the family. Like, get it done.
No,
like,
but anyway, what I was trying to
whatever
say.
you do with passion. Anything passionless is not good.
What I was trying to say with this point is that even when you have sit down meals, like it's exactly what Pablo just said right now. Like it's an opportunity for you to express your love to your family, and like I even feel loved when my kids like the food I have and they're like, Mom, like this was so good, or Pablo says like, wow, this is really good. You even feel loved, but you do it so they can also eat healthy, because moms know best, moms know exactly what their kids should be eating. But in the table, you talk, maybe some people don't know, like on the table, what do? Well, sometimes it's a really bad habit for us to, bring your phone when you're eating with the children, because your kids also will like think like, oh, well,
this isn't important.
If dad and mom keep bringing their phone.
It's like a sacred moment,
Exactly.
It's like, dude, this is our family time.
You gotta treat it like that.
Yeah, like we were all in battle the whole day, we were all working or going to school or playing whatever it is. And right now, this is just a time for us to come together and talk about all that.
And then this is where even Hannah, our kids, maybe some of you have been asked already by them. So like, how was your day? And a lot of times they ask that because we ask them that sitting down.
So they even grow like how to have conversations.
Exactly.
That's good. Another point I want to talk about is no work on weekends. Yeah. Now, it took me a long time to get here because when we first started like the business, Home Sweet Home, that was like another child. Like for me, because it was my first business. Yeah. I didn't know how to start businesses. Like this wasn't like something that I had seen in the past.
Right.
So, people do, and it's like, oh, this is step 1, step 2, this is exactly how you do it. So a lot of that in the beginning year was at the expense of you, was at the expense of time with the kids, time with Judah. And so I learned quickly. I mean, you helped me learn this. Well, yeah, you made sure I learned it quickly because we probably wouldn't be having this conversation. I'm not kidding. We probably wouldn't be having this conversation. Yeah. But seriously, like, remember we were.
Yeah, I mean, that was a crazy season for us. I mean,
that was the only time. That was the only time in our entire marriage that we threw around the word divorce.
We?
Yes. Yes.
Are you really gonna stick with that?
I'm pretty
sure. You're gonna say we.
Gabby, I don't remember a lot of times.
That was you. You were the one that said divorce. I said quiet. And I did not say, I'm going to be a divorce.
I don't remember things. But what I'm telling you, what I'm telling you, or those kind of things, because I choose to forget them.
Exactly.
But I do remember that that was the only time in our marriage that we threw around the word divorce. We did it one time, felt stupid. Yes, let's move beyond that. This girl. So okay, so but it was because
there's so much pressure.
There was a lot of pressure, but I was spending more time at work, and I was not spending time with you, and I was not spending time with you.
Well, you were so like well, that was a journey where we both had just started a journey in our faith. You know, yes, we grew up in church, and you know, we did church for a long time. But I know that was like it was such a, now, you know, you look back, God was just really, really like squeezing us. I feel like allowing so much pressure in that moment, but because he really wanted us to get to know him. And I think in that season, I really got to know God as my provider. And I think you were on that journey as well, you know, for him to show you that he loves you and he cares for you and he did want to provide. So in that moment, because you grew up very independent, you know, you had to figure life. You know, you were like, I mean, you were working since you were like, what? 12, 11, selling newspapers. So, you know, that was like a journey where God was like stripping us from like independence, orphan spirit, you know, being greedy, like a bunch of stuff, right? That could be another episode. But
for sure.
I think that in that season, it was so hard for both of us was because we were being like, we were in the fire.
Yeah.
And I think that's the reason why, you know, we felt like we were gonna explode.
Yeah. One of the solutions in that, you know, fire, in that time where you and I were completely disconnected, was I'm not going to work on weekends.
It came down to that.
it came down to, exactly. That was the solution. I'm telling you. That was one of the biggest solutions to not lose you, to not lose my family.
Yeah. And I remember, you know, our pastor's wife, she has been such a key in our lives. And I remember she was the one that, you know, was telling you, like, Pablo, you know, why don't you just do work, you know, 8 or 9 to like 5, you know, and you're like, no, fine, not 9 to 5, but like 9 to 7, you know, and then it just, you know, so he kept like compromising, but because you were working like 9 to like 3 a.m.
No, I would work like, I'm pretty much.
Well, because you were doing everything. You were editing, you were shooting.
I was running a bunch of different departments.
You were the administrator. You were office, billing department.
I was everything.
Not even sometimes because you would forget, you know.
Yeah. All right, bro. This girl. Anyway, so what it led to is no work on weekends. So our Saturdays and our Sundays are with family, and on Sundays, you know, we go to church as a family. But weekends we spend time as a family. That's what we do. Okay. Another thing, there's 2 more things and we're done.
Yep.
Nighttime routine. What did you mean by that?
Nighttime routine. So we have a nighttime routine with our kids. I also think that is very, very important to be able to have that, because it's in that our kids, I mean, Judah, that's like there's memes even about this, but it's where Judah gets us all the time, like, you know, Mom, and then he wants to like talk about eternity and like some deep questions, and I'm like, what? Like, you want to talk about that now before you're gonna go to sleep?
Anything to avoid sleeping.
Yeah, but it's in that time that you pray together as well. You know,
Oh, well, you know what? In nighttime routine that you're saying, I remember when the kids when Judah was younger and Levi was younger. One nighttime routine that I had with them is I would every single day, like religiously, like I would read them a Bible story. Yeah. So they have like these like little kid Bibles and with like pictures and everything.
I do that now with Hannah.
And they're really short. So I remember like I would just and we would read it.
And they would act it out.
And then we would act it out, you know, so because Judah likes acting.
He loves acting.
Yeah. So, but I remember he was like 5, but that was one of the things that really did help strengthen and cultivate that relationship. So, and last thing that we do is school drop off prayer. So we always drop off our kids at school. And I think that's important because yes, we could probably say like, oh, you know, let's join this, you know, carpool that's going to pick up our kids, or hire someone to, you know, pick up our kids and take our kids to school, whatever. But that time is actually very strategic for us to be with our kids, to start our day off like that. And one thing that I learned from a beautiful, awesome older lady that, you know, her kids have already grown up is like what they do together, what they did together is that every morning they would put their hands up and they would say, this was their prayer. They would say, God, thank you for the grace that I need for this day. So what is favor and grace is, you know, thank you for the success that you're going to give me throughout the day. Thank you because of the
ability,
energy, the power, the willingness to do the right thing throughout the day, to do what I need to do throughout the day. And so that prayer in the morning with the kids, I think, has been super amazing because we've been able to connect from, you know, in the morning. And I think what it is too, love, is doing little things, but over time.
Yes.
You know, because
being consistent.
Yeah, because sometimes you think like, oh, it's one vacation that's going to solve, you know, everything. We're going to get close in one vacation. And although that's an awesome moment, you know, and we love vacations, we love vacations, but I don't think it's one moment that creates the most impact. I think it's little moments, little strategic moments over time.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that is so good. I think, you know, it's the same thing with whatever area of your life, you know, whether it be health, whatever, you know, fitness, spiritual. I think that is one thing this year the Lord was speaking to me about, you know, being a good steward, right? Being a good steward is like you're just saying, like doing little things over time, doing that one thing. Maybe it's one thing that you have on your plate, but if you're consistent, you're gonna remain, and it's gonna give you a lot of fruit back. You know, it's the same thing with fitness. That's one thing they say, like, don't do your goal. You know, I want to lose 60 pounds, and you're like, you know, and you go radical, you go crazy, but then it's too overwhelming. So then you don't do anything.
You quit,
and you quit. So I think for, you know, family, for relationships, for friends, you know, I think if you want to be a good steward, it begins with little things, you know, being consistent. Just be consistent no matter how hard things get. You say, you know what, I said I was going to do this, so I'm going to do it.
That's true.
So I think, you know, it comes even with friendships.
Yep.
Everything.
Yep.